Hi, I'm Stacy.
And I am Mark, and this is the Gurus and Game Changers podcast.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to be back here with one of my favorite people, Shaun Ziegler, back in the studio for a very special episode of Gurus and Game Changers.
It's good to be back.
Welcoming you back.
Welcome.
When we last spoke to Shaun, he was here talking about co-founding his Spotify for Health and Wellness, Upspace, which you're still working on. Mm-hmm. And when he was here, we briefly spoke about nutrition, right? Remember that? We talked about nutrition a little bit. So I was thinking, was that foreshadowing? But not long after we taped that show, Shaun decided to go on a 40-day, what do you want to say?
40.
Yeah, it was a 40-day fast. Just
40-day fast.
water only
That's
fast.
40 if you didn't catch that. 40 days.
Now, I've done 3-day fasts. You've done 3 days.
Just about 3, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
by the end of the
max.
fast, I want to go lay down. Like, it's not, I can't imagine. Anyway, okay, so I would love to go through it sort of chronologically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So starting off with like, okay, what was your thought process around starting the fast? Why did you decide to do it? So let's talk about that. And then I also got some questions from the audience. I'm sure you have some questions.
Yeah.
But I just kind of want to get inside your head and figure out what it was. And I also like wrote down some stuff because you documented a lot of this along the way, which is super cool. Thank you. I'll start. So on day one, remember your first video? This is what I saw. The first thing I saw, and I was like, "No, Shaun." On day one, you said no food, no drinks aside from water, no supplements, no vitamins, no toothpaste, nothing, just water and sunlight. So why?
Well, if we really get into why, it really goes back even further than that. But the reason, like, no of anything else is because that's where you're at that truly deprived state, or where you're free from all external things and all these like made up things like toothpaste and stuff like that. So you're totally eliminate all external things from the body. So it's important to go all in on it, not kind of this. And a lot of people suggested doing supplements or juices or different things, and obviously like toothpaste. But to me, it was like, if I'm going to do this, it's important to actually do it and have nothing else inside my body.
What was the thing that brought it into your brain? Like, and did
do the fast?
Did you talk to a doctor about it? Like, or were you just like, I'm just going to do this and hope to live through 40 days?
No doctor, no nothing, no research, nothing. And being in the health and wellness space, I was aware of fasting, like 24-hour fast, 36-hour, or 72-hour, or whatever it might be. I was aware of fasting, but not to this extent. This came to me out of nowhere. I don't even fully remember like the time or whenever. It was just like a gut feeling out of nowhere where it was like, I need to do a 42-day fast.
42 days. Why?
It was originally 42 days. I don't know why. It just like came to me. I was like, I got to do a 42-day fast. And I was like, okay. Like, I just immediately, I didn't question it. I didn't overthink it. It wasn't like anyone planted the idea in my brain. It wasn't like I saw it online. It was literally out of nowhere. It was just like, I need to do a 42-day fast. And it was so clear.
But did you know why you needed to do a 42-day fast?
The reason for me was to like tap into my subconscious that's how I went into it. It was like to tap into that gut feel, that subconscious, that same feel that gave me the feel of like, I need to do a 42-day fast. Like, it was that same feeling, like, get further into that and understand it deeper and be guided by it more. Cause I am a very analytical person. Yeah. Like, I'm a math and science brain. Yeah. And that's how I grew up, just like thinking. Not that that's how I was raised. Actually, my mom's like very loving, and my brothers are more loving on that, the more emotional. And I was just very analytical and logical and everything. And it was to tap into that subconscious, that guide to just follow the intuition, to follow whatever it is and be guided by that. And my decisions being to be guided by that. But that journey of like following my gut really started back in January, where I did the start of the fast, August 1st. The journey of like following my gut really started back in January, where I started doing a lot of meditating and theta breath work. And theta breath work is all about tapping into your subconscious. It's all about getting to that theta brainwave state, which is actually the natural frequency of the earth, but it's that state where you're like consciously dreaming almost, where you just wake up and you still feel like a little bit of sleep, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like half asleep, half awake. Right. It's that state. So I would do a lot of theta breath work. And then in that journey of doing it, you know, ultimately it led me to just on a whim being like, I need to move to Palo Alto.
Did you want to Google like how many days can you live without eating? Like, did you look at that at all?
I had no fear of it. So no, I didn't even think. I was just like,
because
no.
There's science to it, right? They say like you can live so many days without water. And then so like, I think what?
3 days.
3 days without water.
Like 2 weeks without food.
And 2 weeks without
food.
In theory.
But
But
people
obviously,
live longer.
you buck that theory.
You buck that theory.
Yeah.
They say a lot of things.
They.
I tend to question, who the heck are they?
Right.
Yeah.
Who are they? Like everyone says they say this, they say that, but who are they? I didn't question any of it at all. It was very clear. I was like, I need to do this 42 fast. I didn't need to research it or anything. It was just clear like this was beyond me. It felt like this was beyond like, I don't know. It was just so clear. Like this just needs to be done.
It was like a calling.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And it was just like, which is weird because it's such a bizarre thing. Usually you plan something like that, but it was so clear. And 2 weeks later, I did it. Like, and I started it. So
you didn't like advise with anyone. You didn't like ask anyone. You didn't want to.
You
wanted
told
to just
like a few people casually. I was like, yeah, I think I'm about to do a 40-day fast because it turned into 40 days because I was telling my brother about it. He was one of the people I told about it, and he was like, if you're gonna do it, at least make it biblical and do 40. And I was like,
that's cool. I see.
Okay,
I see.
I'll do 40.
That's
like
interesting.
Explains the 40, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I get it.
But
and then, so what you said on day one in your video on day one was, you did it because not to challenge yourself, not to prove yourself right, not for ego or any other reason beside you believe that the subconscious is way more powerful and way more prevalent than we understand. And you believe that the absence of anything from the external world, the absence of substances, can help you tap into your subconscious further. Was that?
Yeah,
that was the reason.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
That's exactly. I mean, the plan, but that was exactly the reason. In the feeling, it was to tap into that subconscious. You know, can explain like what I later learned from that. But yeah, to tap into that subconscious. And in this world, we're so tied to like the materials, this, that, or the other. But that is all within.
Right.
And
So
in
you
order
wanted
to go
to go
within, you need
deeper.
to block out the stuff that's
So
out.
physically though, did you, as you were going into the fast, did you prepare, and this is one of the audience questions actually, but did you prepare before that? Like, did you taper down your eating? Did you like, you know, was there anything that you just said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do a 40-day fast?
Yeah, pretty much. So the week before, 2 weeks before, I was at the beach, so with my family, and the first week that I was there, I was like, okay, I'm going to eat like regularly. I'm just going to celebrate with my family. Like, so eat whatever, even like I was eating, and I normally don't eat any processed sugar or like ice cream, or even I was having ice cream, right, with my family.
Did you have a
and
beer?
stuff.
Because I know you
I
don't
wasn't
really like
drinking
to
at
drink
the
alcohol.
time. I wasn't
He doesn't
drinking.
like to drink alcohol.
I hadn't drank for that, and that's changed a little bit too,
Interesting.
fascinatingly.
I can't
But
wait. Save it to the end. I want to tease people along this journey because I think it's fascinating.
I have a different relationship with it now.
Did you do anything in those 2 weeks prior to starting, from when you decided to do it to when you started? You said it was a 2 week time frame. Was there anything that you did in those 2 weeks that you think was helpful to you being successful in your fast, or you just started it when you started it and caution to the wind?
Mental
Like,
preparation.
What was that?
So
what did that look
just meditating, but I was already doing that. Like I was already doing the theta breath work, meditating, and stuff like that. But it was more mental because I knew it was going to be a mental journey, and I've always tried to train my mind more than my body. And by training your mind, you're actually able to do far more with your body.
Right.
Our bodies are naturally very capable of things, but it's our mind that tends to hold us back. And we see this with people who run the 100-miler and then the 150-miler and then the 200-miler. Before the first person ran it, we thought it was impossible. And then someone runs it. It's like, oh, now there's like 5,000 people who do it per year, right? So I was very aware of that, and I would speak upon that, the power of the mind, and study a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, which is like the placebo effect and stuff like that. So it was more, I guess I would say, a mental preparation, and not as like curated or thought out, more just subconscious mental preparation, like this is happening.
Did you tell your family that you were going to do it before you did it? Because I can imagine there would have been some pushback.
So we were home and we were out
already
to
smiling.
dinner.
He's smiling because he knows.
This is probably a good story.
Yeah, tell the
We
story.
were out to dinner and I knew I was going to do it, but I didn't really talk about it. And I was just saying like food is less, I was like speaking upon this to my family, like food is way less than what we think it is. It's not a
Less
source of
important.
energy.
Yeah, it's less important.
Yeah,
than
I
we
was
think.
just telling them, like, it's not a source of energy. The source of energy is oxygen. And this is the truth. This is scientifically understood. We just choose to not accept it for whatever reason. But 99% of the energy that we get is actually from oxygen. It's not from food. And I now know that even further and deeper at a deeper level. But I was explaining that and sharing that and kind of being like, you know,
All right,
like
trying to
goofy
like
little-
test the
and
waters a
my
little bit.
Yeah. And
What did
my
your mom
was
say?
like, I think it just scared her.
Stephanie.
Like that way
Of
of
course.
thinking kind of scared her.
Of course.
And so like during those 2 weeks at the beach, that was right before the beach. And then during those 2 weeks of the beach, I started to like drip it out to some people, but I don't think anyone really thought I was serious or like it was actually going to happen.
Right.
But I was like, no, this is happening. Like I'm doing it.
Like, I don't know why anyone who knows you wouldn't think you're going to do it if you say you're going to do it.
Put
Like,
your
you
mind to
pretty
it.
much do.
Yeah,
He pretty much
yeah,
does
yeah.
everything he says he's going to do.
I got that
right?
same vibe just from meeting you in the last podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It did not surprise me when Stacy told me that you
Yeah.
did a 40-some day fast. Yeah.
But like being a mother
Yeah.
and knowing, like, so our whole goal is to make sure our kids are fed and taken
Amen.
care of. Like, knowing that my kid might not eat for
For-
that long.
for-
Like,
right.
I felt for your mom so
Right.
much. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure she was.
It was
freaking
very hard for my mom, and like she was very scared, and there was a lot of fear, and a lot of family members, like especially the first week or first 2 weeks, were sending a lot of that fear like my way, like you're gonna die, or if you keep doing this, like you're gonna have whatever. Here's this Google article, here's this article, all these things, and I just blocked it out. I didn't read one of the things. I didn't respond to people who sent me the negativity, but I had dozens of that stuff being sent my way. And particularly my mom, she was just very scared, like naturally, like out of love, like she was just very fearful of it. Yeah.
Knowing how I felt, like, and I know you just because of Zach, you know, but I was like, I want to go get you and go feed you. Like, that's like in my mind, I couldn't like watch because I was like, I just want
Yeah.
him to be okay. Because, you know, for us, like in our mind, like food is pretty important, but obviously you didn't think that
obviously
was
not.
the case. My question is like, too, like when people were throwing these things at you, like, how did you just stay on your path? Like, there was nothing that you looked at it as negativity and not like potential facts that could possibly happen to you. Like,
So I guess two things with it. One, like this was deeper than me, like, and I
Okay.
knew that going in. Like this was it wasn't like it wasn't a challenge. It wasn't like any of these things that I think a lot of people thought. I try to explain that very clearly, but it was just so much deeper. So it was beyond me. Like that's how
Yeah.
it felt. So it wasn't about these things. It was like I just feel called to do this, and it's that simple. Like
Yeah.
this needs to be done, and I didn't entirely know why,
Right.
but I just knew it needed to be done.
why did you document it and post it publicly?
So I documented it, and I only documented 13 days, and then I posted all
Yeah,
of it. and
I saw
journaled it.
that. I saw everything later. Yeah.
So I documented initially because I was aware of the byproducts of what it could do. It wasn't the intention, but I was aware of it, just being a conscious human.
What do you mean by byproducts? Like
The positive
the positive
byproducts.
stuff.
Yeah, the
So you
positive
wanted
byproducts.
to showcase how it could be really positive.
Yes, exactly. Like a lot of the positive byproducts, and I felt like inspired to do that. And just very simply, like unedited, just like talk
no, I
in front of
know.
the camera, just like like I didn't want it to be something that took energy from me. So it'd be very simple. And I had editors like, hey, can I edit your stuff and do
Yeah,
this? I'm like,
yeah.
listen, this is not about that at all.
Yeah.
I'm only sharing this with the world because a lot of people, one, have been asking for it. And two, I do understand a lot of the byproducts that come from it. And some of them being, one, like understanding that our minds are way stronger than we recognize. Two, fasting itself, like a 1 day fast or a 3 day fast, is one of the best things we could do for our body. And that's even scientifically
Yeah.
understood,
Yeah.
right? Today. So when my brother had cancer that I went back home from, this was back in March, so a few months prior, I went home to help build an immunity program for him.
Oh, wow.
And the program was called Immunity 6. And that program, you probably thought it was going to be very, extensive and this, that, and the other, but it's really simple. It was 1, oxygen, get oxygen. So breath work, breathe into the nose, and then exercise to pump that oxygen throughout the body. 2, water, drink a lot of water. 3, earth, go outside, ground, get sunlight, etc. 4, fire or heat or which was the sunlight, actually, the heat part. 5, all natural food. So just eat from nature, no fake stuff, and have like an intermittent fasting diet. And then 6 was ether, like get back and tap into meditation. So build up the mindset or prayer, whatever it might be. But the number one thing that I recommended to start Immunity 6 was to do a 3-day fast. And he was so resistant to it.
Really?
It was like, I was like, why are you so resistant? Like, you're about to go through chemo and radiation and all these things that are really hard on the body.
Yeah.
All I'm recommending is you do a 3-day fast. And it was like, no. Then after the fast, my brother he's my older brother, and we have a lot of respect for each other. And he just gave me my space during the time. So we didn't talk during the whole fast.
He didn't say one thing.
No, because he knew. And I don't think he had as much fear as others.
Yeah.
He just knew like this was deeper. And we talked afterwards, and part of the conversation was like, Jack, would you do a 3-day fast? And he was like, oh yeah, no problem. I would totally do a 3-day fast. I was like, absolutely. I'm like,
what's he going to say to you though? I mean,
yeah.
you just did a 40-day fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the amount I had hundreds and hundreds of people, I'm not even kidding, like on TikTok and Instagram reaching out saying, hey, I am inspired to do a 24-hour fast. Hey, I'm inspired to do a 48-hour fast. Hey, I already did a 3-day fast. And it was never extreme. Like, it was never beyond what, because I wouldn't recommend, hey, go do a 40-day fast or even a 7-day fast. Like, I would only recommend something that's all. I wouldn't deter it, but I also wouldn't recommend it.
What was your longest before you did this?
48-hour.
Yeah.
So a 4-day fast.
No,
I'm sorry, 48-hour, 2-day fast.
48 hours,
So
2-day fast.
I want to get in your head though, like when you started the fast, because I don't want to make sure we get to everything. But when you started the fast, so you're like, okay, today is my first day of my fast. You post about it, whatever. How did you feel in those first 3 days that you were doing it, and then how did you start to feel 4, 5, 6, 7? Because I know we've both done 3-day fasts.
Yeah.
That's pretty much as long as I've lasted.
Yeah.
What happened after the 3rd day and then the 4th day, and like, how did your body feel?
So day 1 was the only day where I had like a headache or anything.
Okay.
And that was from caffeine withdrawal.
Right.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind.
Sure.
Because I had a lot of caffeine the week before because I was like working. I'm like, and so it was caffeine withdrawal. After that, no headache, no hunger.
No hunger.
No nothing.
No hunger.
Not even a
was not-
low-grade hunger throughout.
I was
Or
never
a peak of
hungry.
hunger.
Not one time through the 40 days was I hungry. Not one time. Not on day 1,
What do you-
2,
what do
3,
you
4, 5,
attribute
6, or
that to?
7.
I mean, the human body gets hungry, right?
So hunger is actually a hormone that's produced by the mind.
Okay.
So when you're thinking, oh, I'm doing a 3-day fast, at day 3, okay, now it's time, right?
Yeah.
So even if you go today, you're like, I'm not going to eat till dinner. You're not going to be hungry really all day unless you start thinking about it. And then right around dinner time, you're going to be hungry. It's similar with like going to the bathroom. Like, why is it that you don't really have to go to the bathroom that bad? And then the second you get home, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go to the bathroom so bad. And you like run into the house, have to go to the bathroom. Hunger is a similar thing where our brain is really signaling the hunger. So my brain at a deep, deep level, this is where I was more saying this wasn't a challenge. This wasn't a thing. Like, this was deep. It knew I was going the distance. It knew I was going 40 days at least. Like, so it wasn't going to torture me with that hunger. And it just knew the food wasn't coming in. So why produce the hunger hormone? And I imagine, I don't know the science behind this, but I imagine that hunger hormone has something to do with like prepping the gut for food that's about to come in beyond just telling us, hey, we're hungry.
But your stomach didn't hurt, or like gurgle, or like say, like sometimes when I'm really hungry, like my stomach is like, ooh.
No, not at all. Like literally not
bizarre.
Not once.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But also maybe you were intermittent
unique.
fasting anyway, right? Before you started the fast, like you weren't like eating 3 meals a day.
No, yeah, definitely wasn't eating 3 meals a day. I was more intuitive eating. So like 2 meals, 1 meal a day. Sometimes 3, but it was more intuitive and in flow eating, but definitely not 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then so let's fast forward to day 12. So day 12, you said your body felt rejuvenated and recharged because of the ocean dips. So the ocean really was what?
Cold plunge.
The ocean was my source of electrolytes.
Okay.
So the water is great, but you're just bringing in water. Our body doesn't absorb all that water. That's when you just drink a ton of water, you just pee it all out.
You need a tiny bit of salt.
Electrolytes, salt, is what will help store that water in our body for our body to then use it and then flow in our bloodstream. So the ocean was my source of electrolytes. I would literally take a sip of the ocean, and I would bring a bottle of ocean water home, and I would have...
You'd be drinking ocean water?
Yeah, legit. And I know it's crazy, but like, in truth, it's actually not crazy. It's nature's medicine.
Nature's medicine
Nature's
slash
medicine,
nature's
yeah.
sewer.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most filtered source of water.
Because of the salt, right?
Because of the salt
Yeah.
and the constant flow.
Yeah.
There's no lab that can filter water better than the ocean.
Cool.
There's no lab that has better electrolytes than the ocean from the salt. And if you think about any water or salt or electrolyte that we get, it originated from nature at some capacity.
Right.
But then it went through all these lab things, which are not natural, and we're natural creatures. So we're meant to have nature. So a lot of people be like, you're drinking the ocean, that's nasty. There's this, that, or the other. I'm like, no, actually, this is the best and most filtered source of electrolytes you can get in the world.
So how did you find that information out? Because I don't think that's how everyone feels.
Most information is all within. It's literally, you just look within.
I love you, Shaun.
It's true though. Like if
Yeah.
you
Like, don't listen to what people are researching and saying. Like, just think about it in your own brain, and that's
all,
the answer.
Because a lot of that research that we have today has just been built upon other research that we had yesterday, and that research contains, whether we even recognize or not, some sort of bias or greed, right? So a lot, especially in the medical world.
Bias or greed?
Bias or greed in the research.
Oh,
so
greed
in
in the
data,
research. Okay.
right? Like we could find data about anything. I could get data to prove my point, just like the fast, for example. Like I have data, I could have, if I wanted to go there, I could have found a bunch of data that supports my case, and everybody else could find a bunch of data that supports their case. And that's the world we live in, where we've just have all this data, and we say data is the source of truth, but all the data that we have today is, a lot of it's manipulated without even being known of some bias or greed based on your agenda, right? So if I'm building a pitch deck for Upspace, I'm going to find the best statistics for that.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean they're 100% true. I might think them true. So it's not like I'm lying.
But science, science is true, no? Like,
Science is literally just a bunch of experiments that we're experimenting with nature and then pulling the data from. And a lot of these experiments, we're so disconnected from science that we see it as this source of truth.
Okay.
But really, it's just been the past 50 years that science has transcended above the intuition and above spirituality and above everything else. But science is simply just trying to explain those things. And those things exist within and without, like, looking out to the stars. But science can't explain all these different things. But we literally, like our bodies, for example, science still can't explain how our bodies work fully. Like our brain, it can't explain that. Yet we all have it. We all can feel it. We all can sense it. We all understand it to a capacity. We can't always explain it, but we understand it because it's our bodies. And our bodies have trillions and trillions of cells and trillions of sensors. And then we go into a lab or a hospital that has like a few scans and tells you exactly how you are, right? It's like 3 scans, the MRI, the CAT scan or whatever. And it's there to say, this is how you are. This is how you feel. You should take this medication, right? Where our body has billions of sensors. Every skin is measuring frequencies, right? Our eyes are seeing sight. Our ears are catching the sound waves and then depicting different realities. So it's the most advanced
If we go into
thing.
our subconscious deeply enough, we can answer any question.
Any
That's
question.
what you're saying.
Literally,
Okay,
yes.
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're day 12 and you're feeling good, but then day 13 was an upsetting day. Do you remember day 13? Your brother called you crying.
Yes.
Because he was really, really nervous. Your family was so worried about you. So you decided you wouldn't be documenting your journey publicly, and you told them you were stopping the fast.
Yes.
But what really happened?
I did not stop the fast.
Yeah.
And I felt really guilty because I do not like lying. Like that's my number. Like I've never, ever since I was a child.
I would never think of you as a liar.
But if I felt like pigeonholed, like it was like my 13-year-old brother is calling me crying, and that's coming because he's witnessing my mom and how fearful she is out there. And I see it. She's sending me all these articles and all these things. And I was like, my intention of this fast had nothing to do with like, I don't want to cause fear in my family because I know fear leads to stress. Stress leads to inflammation, and inflammation leads to disease.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't want to be causing that fear. And the truth, I don't want to receive the fear either.
Right.
So I was like, I have to just I tried every other way, like to try to analytically explain to my mom how this isn't that bad or this, that, or the other.
She didn't want to hear
And
that.
she didn't want to hear it.
She's your mom.
Not
you
your
know?
mom.
Yeah.
No.
So I just was like, I gotta just tell her I'm not doing it,
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna go within. I'll just kind of document everything for the sake of it, but I'm not gonna share it. And yeah, that was that.
Yeah.
It was for them, basically.
It was for them. So, but you're in your mind, you're like, I am not stopping this.
Oh,
I'm
there's not
already at day
one, yeah.
13. I need to see this all the way through.
It was even less like of a challenge. It was just like this is bigger than me. Like this just needs to happen.
So would you say you felt like you were more along for the ride than something you had to
Right.
drive
It
yourself?
was happening to
Exactly.
you.
I was along for the ride. That's what it felt like.
So there were no challenges.
It was not a
essentially.
challenge at all. It was not like,
It was already a foregone conclusion that you would hit the end game and the end goal.
yeah, and 40 days
You
was
were
the
just
day that
experiencing
just
it.
came to me.
Right.
It could have been 60. It
Right.
could have been 32,
Oh,
like if I
geez.
felt called. But it was more like there was a reason I got that number in the beginning, the 42, and I'll share what happened on 42. But there was a reason for that. So I felt like that was a number, but like I was just surrendering to the flow. Like
Yeah.
if it ended up being 30, it was 30. If it ended up being 60, it was 60. There was no like, I wasn't locked in on a certain number.
Got
That
it.
was just the number that came to
And there was no specific difficulty or specific surprise that happened across those 40 some days that made you question or
Well, I was just
gave
going
you
to say,
pause.
day 15, he questioned it.
That was day
Do
15.
you remember that? Day
I think-
15?
Yeah, it was like, what is like, why am I doing this? Or like, what is it? What is it like?
Right.
What is this?
Like, I'm
is
glad
this,
that
yeah.
you did have at least one day of questioning because,
Right, that's
you know,
human.
that's human.
Yeah, it's human. Yeah, and I think it was a lot had to do with like after telling my family. Now it was like,
You had that kind of guilt.
Right.
that-
Now
yeah,
you
I had the
lied.
guilt of like I just had to lie, and I
Right.
do not like lying. And yeah, so I was just like, that was probably I guess the one day where I really
So
questioned
what
it.
then, when you're thinking that way and you're questioning it, what inside you made you continue? Like,
It just once again that gut feel, like
Yeah.
that intuition that like this is bigger than me. Like I'm just along for the ride type thing. And I was doing a lot of meditation. So during think about the time you're eating. That's like 3 hours a day. I was all meditating
It
during
is
that
true.
time
When you
of
do it
working.
fast, you
I
have so
had
much more
you have
time.
more time.
Yeah.
You
So
did.
I was meditating a lot, and during that day, I don't remember specifically what brought me to that state and what got me out of that state, but it was more like me just verbalizing some emotion, I guess, in that. But I still knew like this is happening.
Yeah,
Like I'm
it's
along for the
just gonna
ride, but
happen.
I'm emotionally like, why? Like what is the purpose or whatever
Yeah.
type thing.
was there anyone besides your parents who were pushing you to stop, or your family?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, my team at Upspace, they were originally, some of them were very hesitant about it. They were very respectful. But in the beginning, they were like little, not at peace with it, but I had good conversations with all of them. Dom was probably like, what the heck are
Dom,
you doing?
Dom was,
Yeah,
well, that's why I want to talk to you too, because in the middle of this whole thing, I don't know what day it was in your fast, but
Day 6. I
day
believe.
6 of your
Yeah.
fast. Like, do you want to tell the story, like, of what happened with Dom?
Yeah, day 6 of my fast. I'm on my way to work. I sit down and I get a phone call from one of my good friends from Austin, and he's like, "Dom is not breathing. He's in an ambulance, and
who's
they have him on a ventilator, and he won't breathe." I was like,
He's not breathing on his own.
"Not breathing on his own."
And
Yeah.
Dom is your just good friend. Just
Dom
for,
is
for
one of
the
my
audience.
best friends, co-founder of Upspace. So like deep connection from both levels. And this is day 6 of my fast, and immediately I was like, I need to go to Austin. And I had a whole routine before.
Right.
Like I was up at 5 a.m. I was actually working out a lot. Like I just started CrossFit. I was running daily. I would do my meditation on the beach before work, get in the ocean, get my electrolytes. Like I was like, it was smooth. I felt better than I've ever felt in my life.
Wow.
And then day 6, it was like, you need to go to Austin, Texas, 110-degree heat, and your friend just had a cardiac arrest. So I went there, and he was literally like, I will never forget the
This
sight.
is a healthy guy.
Healthy
Healthy
active.
guy, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
he's building a health and wellness company.
Right.
He's a health and wellness creator.
Yeah.
He's a very healthy guy, and he just collapsed while doing a sprint, an all-out mile sprint and collapsed, had a cardiac arrest, wasn't breathing, got brought back through CPR, but still wasn't breathing on his own. They just got his heart rate back, and then they had to put him on a ventilator. And while I got there, and also the same day, I mean, he's literally, like, he's just basically like they were just keeping him alive, it looked like, in a way.
Oh my gosh.
Which was wild. And so it was just like me and 2 others, and then his mom got there, and me and his mom stayed overnight just at the hospital on the hospital floor. And it was crazy because like periodically throughout the night, you just saw him get a little bit better and better and better, and just like come back, wiggle his fingers, wiggle his toes, move. Like his mom would come and he would like open his eyes like this.
Were you
and,
scared? Like, or did you know Dom was going to pull through?
I would say emotionally, I was a little like, whoa, but like deep down, I was like,
Yeah.
he's coming back.
He's got it.
Yeah, he's coming back, and he's coming back stronger.
Yeah.
And literally the next day, like he gets up, they say they want to take the ventilator out for like 3 days usually. The next day they take the ventilator out, and the fear is like, will they still be able to breathe on their own when you take it out? And he, who gave me all these drugs? It was like the first thing he said, something like that. Yeah, he's like, get these drugs out of me. Like literally right after that, after being just like out.
Oh my gosh.
And then he looks over, I'm sitting there, he's like, what are you doing here? And he just like looks at me, I'm like,
Surprise.
hey, like, what's
Yeah.
up? And he's like out of it, but it was wild because it was like 24-hour period of time, less, where I see him and he's like being kept alive by these machines, and then he's just like good, and then from there it was just
crazy.
like healing.
And you didn't have like any stress because like a lot of people eat when they're stressed out. Like, you know, like if I was on a 40-day fast, it was day 6, and one of my friends was sick and I had to go to the hospital, I'd be like,
Yeah.
you know what? Like, I think this is a good
We'll
time
pause.
to
Right.
pause
Right.
or cancel the
Yeah,
the
it's
fast
over.
so that I can
We'll
like
try
become
again.
starving. We'll
Yeah.
try again later. Like my friend's sick, but
Yeah.
you didn't budge. It's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't stress. It was more there was temptation. You know, people would be bringing Terry Black's barbecue. I'm like, that looks so good.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So at that point, did you feel hungry?
No, it wasn't hunger. It was more like
Fun.
that
just
looks
looks
so
good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, so that was more. It was like an urge, like biting your nails. Right. It's not
Okay.
a hunger for your nails. You're not like, oh, I'm so hungry for my nails, but you have this urge. Or at least I bite my nails. Like I'll have an urge, just bite my nails, and that's more the stress urge or whatever
Sure.
it might be that we develop. And eating and that urge is very habitual, like through my whole life and all of our whole lives. So I would definitely have that urge, but it was not a hormonal like hunger or stomach thing. It was more
Yeah.
like, that looks good.
Right.
And like I have an urge to get it, or like I have an urge to sip that type
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went home. Dom's okay, and then you just kept going. So you went back to the ocean water, back to your routine. You were still running. Like, was your body fatigued?
So the Austin, I was still running in Austin, but it was like hot. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 105 degrees out, and there was no ocean.
Yeah.
So no electrolytes. So I'm just drinking water, but I didn't have as much water because I didn't have a car. Like where before I would just walk everywhere. I pick up my Mountain Valley water. Like I'm good for
Right,
the day. I got my 12 pack. Like and I would just guzzle. But now it's like, it was like everything was kind of, I'm just like,
Discombobulated.
yeah, functioning like as much as possible, just having some water. So running was hard. And that made, like when I went back, I stopped doing the CrossFit. Because like once I lost the mojo, I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm just
But
gonna.
you would have had the energy to do CrossFit without eating for.
I think I could have kept doing it if I kept, once I stopped, and I kept running. Like, so I would still run on the beach and I
How
would run
far
outside.
would you run?
Like 3 miles, 4
Yeah.
miles sometimes. Yeah.
You
Like
didn't
kind of
feel more
intuitively.
tired than when you eat, or
I would feel energized by like the exercise.
There was no
Same.
depression of energy, no depression of any physical capability
seriously
over the
honestly.
multiple weeks of not getting any. You're going to say no because your fuel comes from oxygen, not from food.
Exactly.
You never
this was
had
after,
a fatigued moment. Like I could tell in some of the videos that you seemed less
well,
energy.
a lot of those videos I was taking at 12:30 at night, like literally, like it was the last thing I did. I didn't think about the videos at all. It was like,
Yeah.
I'd be working throughout the day, and then
Okay.
be 12:30 at night. I'm like walking home, like I should probably document something.
Yeah,
And I would just
yeah.
be like, day whatever of
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
Day
you know,
whatever
fast.
of this.
and like people be like, you look like you're dying. I'm like, no, like it's just literally 12:30 at night, and I'm
Yeah.
tired. Right,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
when most of those
Really?
videos would take place. But by day 30, like so day 30, I stopped exercising around then.
Yeah.
And when I stopped exercising, that's when I started to feel bodily fatigued.
Okay.
Like once I stopped running is when I started feeling a little like bodily fatigued.
Interesting.
So the
Well, wait.
exercise kept me like
We got to run back
Strong.
though to day 25.
day 25.
Day 25. Remember
Yeah.
what happened day 25?
Day 25, I thought it was day 24, but day 25, that was when I told my mom.
Yeah, your mom found out.
My mom found out.
Your mom
yep.
found out that you were still on the fast. How did she find out?
She found out. How did she find out?
I mean, everybody probably. Well, I don't know, because you weren't posting anything.
I wasn't posting anything. She probably just had a gut feeling, honestly. Like,
really?
You're still doing this. And then she started to call Dom. And when she started to call Dom and my team, I'm like, I got, like, this was like a weak moment.
Upset about it.
Yeah, I got really upset about it. And I got a little angry. But it ended up being like a breakthrough for me and my mom and our relationship and everything on that day.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because I recognize, and at this point, after hours and hours and hours of meditating and being tapped in, like I was prior to that, I was trying to like alleviate her fears with my analytical thoughts.
Right.
So alleviate her fears with truth, I guess I could say. And the thing is though, like fear is like the darkness. Like with fear, you can't have love, and love is light. And when she's coming in with this darkness of the fear, not that she's darkness, but this fear was taking over her. If I'm just coming in with truth, she's in the dark. She can't see it. She can't understand it. She can't articulate
it's your truth, right? It's not necessarily, you're not showing her like science from,
Well,
like,
it was science too. Like, science. I mean, I'm very knowledgeable about this arena, and like you can logically think of these things, and every science experiment, like I could go do a science experiment based on all these things say, and then if it tests true, it's true. And then you replicate it 1,000,000 times or 1,000 times, and there's a science experiment, right? That's science. That's all it is. Okay. And, I could tell from my own thing, like this is science, like the things that I'm saying, but so I'm just leading with truth. But if she's in the dark, she can't see that truth. Mm-hmm. So what I learned on it was 24, but day 25, I must have documented it. So day 24, which is a special number. But day 24, I realized like I can't lead with truth. You have to lead with light. So you lead with light and then you bring the truth. So, and light is love. So on day 24, I just called her after we had our little argument. I called her back. I was just like, Mom, I love you and I love myself, and I'm not going to do anything to hurt myself, and I'm not going to do anything to hurt you.
That's good.
But I just led with love, and literally
that helped.
From that, it just snapped. Because then when you lead with light and darkness, now the room is light. And then you say, hey, here's the truth. And here's the information. Because now they trust you because they can see. And then you lead the way to the light room, to the room that remains light. And from that day forward, my mom had more peace. She could sleep better at night.
Okay.
And she would even text me and be like, hey, I want to do a fast with you today or whatever. And I was like, whoa, this is
cool.
That's cool.
Did you understand where she was coming from though as a mom? Like, could you kind of put yourself in her shoes a little bit? Like,
originally I was just like resistant towards it.
Yeah, but you don't want to think about it because it's your mom hurting, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and more I was like, Mom, like you can't love with fear. Like you literally can't have hope when you have fear, and hope is the precursor to love. So if you have fear, you can't give me love. And if I know this is out of love for you, but you're not giving me love, you're just giving me fear, and they're opposites. So that's how I used to explain it to her, but that was where she had the resistance to it. And then once I started leading with love, then she started pouring in love. And like in order to lead with love, I had to understand exactly where she was coming from. And I would think, I'm like, okay, if I had a kid.
Did you ever consider that was the ultimate purpose of the fast? To have this transformative relationship change with your mother?
Wow.
Or
one of them anyway.
think that was definitely one of them, but I think it was like a transformative relationship with all, like the world. Because how I used to think before was with the analytical mind, which is the truth. And when I led with truth, like I wear no shoes. I am very unconventional in this modern world, I guess. And when I lead with truth with that, I get resistance from the modern world all the time. So my truth's not getting out there. So I think what the fast taught me is to lead with love and to lead with light, and then to bring the truth. Not the truth isn't there, but lead with light and then bring the truth. So it changed my relationship with really everyone, like with the world, to be able to get the message across and to hopefully reconnect humanity back to where we came from, which is nature. So
which
I
you
think
said
that's
was your
really
goal in our first time we sat down. That was your goal, to reshape culture in that way.
Yeah, because it's important. I think we've lost touch of the original source, and that original source is so abundant. Like you look out into the stars, but it's also so peaceful, and there's guidance, and so there's just harmony in that source. So as a society, we've kind of gone so far away from it. We've just built upon a material thing, built upon that, but for what? So this fast, I think, was in a way helped me totally free myself from it, but then also recognize how to share and lead the way, and with both the love and the truth, and then show the way. So I think it's part of that.
So the last like 3 or 4 days of your fast, like you were talking about, like you're almost like, I felt like in some of your documents that you were kind of like sad that it was ending. Is that the case? Or like just like, you know, like you're excited to celebrate with everybody, but also like you knew that like the chances of you doing this again were probably pretty slim. And like, so what, did you feel that way? Like, were you?
So I wouldn't say it was a sadness. It was more of an awareness of, these are the last 3 days that I might be in this state of mind, in this state of clarity in my body for maybe ever, or maybe for a long time. I didn't know. So it was more of like awareness and like an appreciation and a gratitude for these last 3 days than it was like a sadness to be done. Because at the same time, I was so excited and happy to like.
Were you excited? Because I wasn't getting
yeah.
the feeling that you were like stoked to get your food in like on day 40. You know what I mean? Like
I was in a very, very zen state.
Yes,
So it's like
yes.
not this roller coaster of emotions. Like it was just a very steady state. So I was internally very excited to, and it wasn't just about the food, but it was a lot about the
celebrating with people.
celebrating with people. And just because most celebrations are done around food, like food's the center of it. So towards the end, like those temptations just became like, or it was just like a lot. Like it would drain a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Because I would go to the celebrations and I would have to resist the temptation of food and socialize at the same time, where like I was in a meditative state and whatever. So
Can imagine.
so by the last 2 weeks, like I was kind of isolating myself a little bit to meditate more, and it was beautiful, but I was ready. Like I was excited to just integrate back with the world
Back
and be able
into
to have,
society.
like a cup of cacao with like all the people on the property and stuff like that. So
Were you, excuse me, were you along the way looking forward to day 40 because you thought something would be coming, something would happen? So it was sort of like looking forward to Christmas, right? Like, I can't wait to get there because that day is an important day.
So this is actually one of the biggest breakthroughs of the entire fast is no, I wasn't. And the reason, because if I did, it would have been so hard. Because if I'm on day 3 looking forward to day 40, how the heck am I supposed to do 37 days of no eating? Likewise, if I'm on day 13 and looking back to the past of like before, it'd be really hard to be able to get through another 27 days. So what it forced me to do is to collapse between the space between in the future and the past, which is the present right now.
Yeah.
So I had to trust and surrender to the present moment fully in order to get through it. It forced me to do that. And in that present moment, there's so much more peace because you're not worried about the past. You're not worried about the future. You're just clear.
That's
and you're
the goal,
present.
right? Just to stay in the present. It's
In the
so
present
hard.
moment.
So hard.
So yeah, like I couldn't, like almost just not even like my willpower doing it, like almost by nature. Like in order to do this thing, I had to just stay present in the moment. And I think that was the most profound gift to have.
Is it discipline? Like, what is it? Like, what keeps you in
Good question.
In the present moment?
Yeah.
Meditation.
Okay, see, I have to start meditating.
focus.
I know.
Because
You don't meditate at all?
No, I talk about it all the time, and I just can't. I just haven't been able to.
There's
sit
a lot of
quietly for a few
resistance to
minutes?
like people to do it. I've felt that it's like a weird thing. I think it's because we fear like what could come up.
I want to
or-
do it. It's
Yeah.
just, when I started doing it a while ago, it made me sad because I think I have some things to work through. So I
Exactly.
realized that if I start to meditate, I'm going to have to take at least a week and
to
sort
like
of,
go
you know,
and uncover that.
process it all myself. And
Right.
I haven't given myself enough time to do that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to need that time because every time I start to meditate, I'm like the whole day sad.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because I haven't finished,
Like,
you know,
going and
cleansing,
getting
whatever that
through
is.
that, yeah,
But that's
the
just me. I
past.
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm very envious. I would love to be able to meditate every day.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to do that's on my goal list.
Yeah. It's once, because it is like those things in the past, whatever it is, they're still
Yeah.
eating at you, whether you recognize it or not.
Yeah.
Like they're still there. So the meditating, although you got to confront them oftentimes because they can come up, but we're confronting them daily. It's just we're not fully aware of the confrontation. So this is just awareness of the confrontation, but through that, you can then alleviate it and then you walk throughout the world without it. So meditating can be a form to like deal with your challenges, and then find that love within and start to love yourself.
So you woke up on day 40. It was your last day of the fast.
Yeah.
Like, what were you thinking? Like, how did that whole day go? And then you ate on day 41. Is that
Yeah,
what you
the
did?
day 41. So
Okay.
40,
And were you
finished
preparing
40.
for your first meal? Like, what? Walk us through that last day.
Yeah, I would say the last 2 days I was mentally preparing for the first meal for the integration process back in. Just like even speaking or thinking to myself, like, all right, my gut's gonna be strong. Like, cause there was fears of, I have fear mongering in the beginning, people throwing me articles about fear. And then at the end too, saying, if you integrate too fast by a fast, you'll die. Or like
You'll
the
die.
same thing happened at the end. I
Meaning,
was like, oh my
if
gosh,
you
not
eat
again.
too quickly,
Too
like,
much.
what were they worried about?
Yeah. So if you eat too quickly, since my
And too
gut
much.
like had nothing, the thought is that my stomach shrivels or whatever. But so they were sending those articles of this, that, and the other. If you eat too much
that
or you eat the
true?
wrong things. Well, apparently not, because I ate
Because you
fully.
didn't do any sort of
I
integration.
didn't follow any of their
Yeah.
things. So
What did you eat? What was it?
So my integration was more like the intuitive things. So my first 3 things,
Yeah.
which I call the reborn ritual, was raw organic milk, raw organic honey, and raw organic cacao. And still every single day, those are the 3 things that I start my day with.
Wow.
I don't eat anything until I have my raw organic milk, raw organic honey, raw organic cacao. For the most part. Some states, the raw organic milk is illegal. So like in Atlanta, it was hard to get. I couldn't get it. But
Because they say there could be bacteria in it. Because
yeah,
it hasn't
it's
been
all
pasteurized.
it's all there's a lot of confused people out there who've created these confused rules, but they're not truth.
Okay.
And
okay.
so yeah, that's why.
So why
but-
those 3 things?
So it was
Milk?
just what really came to me during it, like milk and honey. Like honey, I'm really fascinated by bees. I've always had this connection to bees, how they like levitate, they have this frequency, how beekeepers have the longest life expectancy, how honey is the longest natural preservative.
Beekeepers have the longest life expectancy?
Yeah, by like years, by
I didn't
years.
know that.
Yeah, because of the frequency, it's so healing. And the honey is a natural preservative, so it preserves for an infinite amount of time. Basically, they found honey for like 3,000 years ago by tombs of mummies that's still good honey. So, and then the raw milk they're both like these net positives. Like they exist from the earth, right? It's good for the cow, it's good for the human, it's good for the land, it's good for everybody. There's no death in the equation. Same thing with honey. It's good for the bees, it's good for the land, the pollen, and it's good for the human. And then cacao is this sacred medicine that helps open up the heart, the circulatory system. So it helps with the blood flow, the heart, which a lot of the fast was about that love. So
And then mother's milk, right? Like it's like the first thing that you have when you're born.
when you're reborn.
So this is
yep.
kind of like a rebirth.
Exactly. So that's how I explain it.
I'm
You have it.
understanding. I think I'm on your wavelength, Sean.
Exactly, you're getting there. And
so
then
how
the
did
honey
it
is like
feel
the
to
infinite
eat that
time.
stuff? Did you feel like you wanted to like vomit after, or like
I was in heaven.
no? There was
I
no
was
like
in
heaven? Is that
reaction,
what you
like
said?
physical
There was-
reaction.
No, so
That's
good.
nuts.
So not till day 42, but on that day when I integrate, I had those first 3 things, and then I was gonna just be intuitive with my body, like what do I have next? So I had that, felt amazing. Then I was like, all right, I'll try a smoothie. Had fruit, made a smoothie, felt amazing. Then I was like, all right, I'll try a whole food, and I had a avocado, just whole, and like maybe a pineapple or watermelon from one of the farmers, and had that, felt amazing. And then at nighttime, the same day, Chef Thomas, who I live with, he comes back and he brings this big fat chicken, and it was for himself, and he just cuts it in half. He's like, "Do you want it?" And I'm like, I was making bone broth,
You just
right?
like
A
slice
light
the
thing.
chicken in half, said you want that.
Yeah, and I was like, "I'll try it." I had a little bite, felt amazing. Next thing you know, I had the whole chicken the
Wow.
first day.
Wow.
So the first day I had all those things, and I felt absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the integration process was like extremely
Did you
smooth.
weigh yourself at all along the way? Do you know how much you weighed before and how much you weighed after?
No, I did not weigh myself, because a lot of people wanted me to weigh myself, get the blood work. I have
Yeah.
people offering to give
Yeah.
me blood work and like this, that, the other. And I was like, it's not about,
Have you
It's not
still
about the
weighed
physical.
yourself at all? Like, do you know how much weight you lost?
I have not weighed myself, but I imagine I've gained a lot of it back, but I have not weighed myself. I don't even know what I weighed before fully.
Yeah.
And I have not weighed myself after.
Because I heard, like, I know Zach was like, oh my God, I think he's only like 8% body fat and he's going to not eat for 40 days. Like, what's going to happen to him? He's going to have, like, no.
I was probably 0. I have a picture.
Yeah,
I
mean-
can show you a picture, but I was
Yeah.
probably 0% body fat, but I was cut. Like I had
Of course you were
abs.
cut.
Yeah.
I was
Do you wanna
like
ask the audience?
strong.
0% body fat.
Yeah, I feel like I've talked the whole
No,
time.
no, it's all right. I do have a question I
Okay,
want to
go.
ask because you teased that you wanted to talk about what happened on day 42 because that was the
Yeah.
original number that came to you. What happened on day 42?
So on day 42, it was 2 days after like I'm integrated back. And I was like, the one thing that I lacked clarity on, it was like, what was I going to eat going forward? I knew I was going to eat like raw, organic, just like healthy food, but between like the carnivore diet, the vegan diet, like
Right.
this, that, I
What
wasn't
do you do?
attached to any or the other. I just wanted to do what was the best for my body. And I didn't know. And originally I was going to do like carnivore diet, but then somebody on the farm was like, why don't you just like celebrate life and just have whatever comes as long as it's good? I was like, oh, I like that. Like I'll do that. I'll just like whatever comes. So not carnivore or vegan, just both. And so on day 42 was the first day that it was night. I had this like rice, which is a grain. It was like a broccoli or vegetable. And then like some grass fed, I think like venison or the deer meat. I always forget the word,
Yeah, it's
but
venison, yeah.
yeah, venison. And it was delicious, but it was the first time I had the broccoli and also the green. And I felt great after. Like my mind was sharp. I was like, it was good. And like a little full, but it felt good. And then in the middle of the night on day 42, I just woke up to this like pull from my gut. Like it literally felt like somebody just pulled me. And I just woke up like out of bed, like jumped out of bed and like just released everything in the gut and then had
Threw up.
no, the other way.
Oh,
but
diarrhea.
yeah, and I had this like during the fast, people thought, did you hallucinate? Like, did you this, that? No, not at all. I was actually more clear than I've ever been, like so clear. My meditations were profound and deep, but I never hallucinated or had any out of body experience at all. Then on day 42, during this, I literally had this out of body experience where it felt like that gut and was like speaking to me and like just explaining exactly what. And I wrote this down because I developed this AI journal tool. So I'm just like writing everything down. I haven't looked back at the notes yet that I wrote down, but it was explaining to me exactly how the gut works and the connection between the gut and the brain and how the gut requires space and time in order to process information. And food isn't about energy, it's about information, getting information about the land, the past, the environment, the universe, like just information, the wisdom. That's what food is. And it was just telling all this. And then it pulled me out of the bathroom, brought me back to bed. And I just lie down in bed. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what just happened? And then all of a sudden, like it comes back again and just starts like speaking to me everything that I can have, like my entire ingredient list: raw milk, milk and honey, 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 milk and honey cacao, milk and honey cacao, milk and honey cacao, milk and honey cacao, milk and honey cacao meat, and would just like repeat itself and go on, and then add the next thing, add the next thing. And then it started to say, not this, not this, not this.
Like not what? Do you
What were the
remember?
knots? Yeah.
No vegetables, no grains,
no grains.
Yeah, so no vegetables, no grains, no, and I can explain what I learned from that later.
Yeah.
Because I know why. I'm just like, this is a crazy experience. I'm just going to
Interesting.
follow this. Like,
Wow.
what the heck is going on? I know it sounds crazy, but like this is just the truth.
Yeah.
And so it started spinning. I just writing all this down, but it gave me this clarity. I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna trust and surrender to that. Like that couldn't be more clear of like what to do. Like it literally just like so clear. So I started following that. But two things that were really fascinating that were like against the carnivore diet and kind of on the vegan diet, like this blend, were that I could have almond nuts and seeds, like it said that, and then wheat and like good wheat, so like sourdough. And that was like totally against the carnivore diet or this. So I was like, okay, whatever, but like, that's what it is. So it wasn't like following any diet. And literally like 4 days later, some crazy thing happened where, almonds, nuts, and seeds got introduced to me in this crazy fashion. And then like 7 days later, like some wheat thing where this girl who has a company called Bread, and she starts telling me like speaking this wisdom. And I'm like, what the heck? She's talking about bread. And like, it just all came back, like why I could have that later. But it was crazy. Like it was one of the most profound moments of my life, no doubt. Like it was the most profound moment of my life was that day 42, because literally I went into it for my subconscious or my gut, and then all of a sudden it was like my gut was just like speaking to me on day 42, like out of this weird out of body experience. And I learned that the gut, subconscious, God, creator, universe, energy, Jesus, Holy Spirit, that's just different words. It's all the same thing. So that's literally what it felt like. Just like it was, yeah. I mean, it was just crazy. I'm obsessed with bees. Like honey is one of the, thing I have every day. And I'll literally like I'm starting my own hive and everything.
Oh, good.
So I'll be surrounded by bees
Sure.
and like thousands of bees, no mask or anything. I just like love it, the frequency and everything. And people see me on the property I live. So someone, Amy, she gave me a book, The Shamanic Way of the Bee. And I was on the plane going to Austin. This was like last week. And in the book, there was a whole delay. I wasn't reading the book for a month. Then there was a whole delay in the plane. So I was like, all right, I'll read this book. Ended up being like an hour and a half delay. So I read through like most of the book. And the last page on the book before we getting off, the beekeeper, the shaman beekeeper, was basically passing down the torch to the next beekeeper. And part of that ceremony was mead. And I was so fascinated. I was like, mead, like just water and honey as an alcohol, like that's the most natural form. And it's most ancient. It's been around for like 9,000 plus years, probably hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
And I look up an article to learn more about it. At the bottom of the article, as I'm reading like the details of it, there's an address right in Texas. And
Wow.
I'm like, oh, I mean, Texas is pretty big, but
Yeah.
like, let me just look this up.
Pretty big.
It is a big,
I
it's a
look
big
it
state.
up. It's 25 minutes away.
No way.
So it's literally like a meadery with a tasting room.
did you drive over there?
With a tasting room.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
So we literally go over there, me and Chris and my friend Nick, and we go over there and we try the mead. And they're right on there, just big bees, like these old books about beekeeping and this, that, and the other. And I'm literally starting a beehive. So it was so fascinating.
That's
like
cool.
I'm learning all these things. And so we had the mead and it was absolutely delicious. And I don't drink much. We had probably like 4 glasses of it. Had to be up at 5 a.m. in the morning the next day for
You
a
felt
flight.
fine?
Felt
Yeah,
amazing.
that's
Like
crazy.
no hangover. I forgot I even drank the night before.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So mead is some special.
Wow.
Yeah.
You knew about that.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of that.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Having gone through what you went through,
Yeah.
if you go home tonight and your gut tells you, hey, guess what? You need to do another 42 days. What's your answer?
I'm doing it. Yeah. When after the fast, like a lot of like abundance started coming my ways. Like Upspace, all this stuff started to happen. This joint venture started to occur. This other thing started to occur. Like I'm starting this big fund. Like all the creators started coming to our platform. Like a lot of abundance. Meanwhile, I'm living on probably the most precious land in all of LA. And LA is a very wealthy place. And I'm living on probably and only 20 people live in this land. Literally in the mountains of Malibu, right by the ocean. And I'm like so blessed, like of all these things that are coming my way. And one grounding thing that I always try to say to myself, or especially after the fast, was, if this is all taken away, am I still peaceful and happy?
Sure.
If it's all taken away. And I try checking to myself time and time again. And if the answer is no, which sometimes it is,
Yeah.
you can feel it. Like if you
Yeah.
don't lie to yourself, then it's like, I need to meditate. I need to do something to get back to the state where if this is all taken away, the answer is yes. So if I need to go to Tibet and spend 120 days there in silence by myself, and there's some call that brings me there, yes, I will do it. And if it's a fast, if whatever it is, I will do it.
But the
I don't know.
parameters of normal everyday like work, like wouldn't let like people who are listening to this go do stuff like that, right? I mean, they got to work, like, and I know you guys are doing a special thing with Upspace, but a lot of people got to work 9 to 5 and they have to do their things. Like, what would you tell those people? Like, how can they apply some of these things you've learned when they might not have the stamina to do like a 40-day fast, might not be able to leave and go to Tibet or move to Malibu or do what you guys have done? What would you say?
So everybody has a different current, right? A different river
Right.
that we're meant to follow. So my river is different than everybody else's river. You're
course.
different than mine. So I want to tell anybody what to do or what
No.
not to do type thing. What I would tell them is try to align their free will with that divine will, with that natural will, right? So literally imagine a river and there's this current in that river. And if you're aligned, when we're born, our free will is in the river with the natural will.
Mm-hmm.
We're just flowing, right? That's why babies are this beacon of love. And then as we get older, different biases, different things, you learn these things, different flashy objects, whatever, our free will starts to chase different things. And we start to deviate from that current.
Mm-hmm.
And that deviation, just like a current, there's still this pull, this force to bring you back. And that's the anxiety and the stress and the fear that we get because we know we're not in that aligned with the natural will. Our free will is now deviated. So my only advice to people is to try to align your free will with that natural will. Because then you're still conscious, you're still being, you still have your free will, but you're aligned with it. Because nature, the truth is, you look up in the stars, look to the land, look to the sea. It's guided. You have the current. It's peaceful. You can float in the lazy river, whether it's going fast or slow, and it's abundant. Mm-hmm. So by aligning with that, you tap into that infinite power. Where when we deviate, now you're limited to this material world. Like you're limited to these things. So that's my only advice is like follow your current, like take time to meditate so you can surrender to that current because you tap into all these sources and then you're at peace.
Maybe try to do that before you are stuck with all the bills of the house and the, you know, like
even with the bills of the house and all these things,
kids, family.
the current might like, it's not going to, like the current that you align with is more about bringing peace. So it might be like, yeah, still work this job. Or I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it might be like this, that, or the other.
But
like,
try to keep your brain sort of on that channel.
Focus on that. And if it tells you to do something that might not necessarily make sense, I can almost guarantee, I can promise by following that, the abundance comes.
Okay.
Like there's more abundance in following that. There's more peace and guidance and abundance that comes from following that. Because you literally get connected to nature and nature is so abundant. Like look out the force of the waves. Nobody can swim as fast as the current. Nobody on their own. So the current is way stronger, way faster. Nobody can produce as much energy as the sun or the stars, right? Nobody can create the harness gravity today, but nature has all this. So if we can tap into that, we become a part of that. And there's actually more abundance in it in this material world too.
I love the way you think.
So, yeah,
I do.
that's cool. I know.
It's a very hopeful, encouraging way to think,
young.
very positive way to think.
I think like and you know, you're probably don't feel like you're young, but you're 24.
You're young.
I wonder if you can keep this. Like it'd be so amazing to talk to you like 10, 15, 20 years from now. And if you're the same, you have the same mentality. I mean, I imagine you would, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's as a society, I hope to make it like change it so that like an older person would have hope for the youth, right? Like today's, and this has been going on for a while where the older generation has lost hope because like the world is so disconnected. Like that's more my point. Like that's why I'm on this mission where, you know, like my grandmother, when she passes away fearful of her grandchild's future.
Right.
And that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing to create a world where we can die peaceful because the future is protected and the future is actually has more harmony and is more connected to nature. And that's why I do the work that I do. So I intend on remaining in this state and I intend on helping it so that everybody else can get to this state. It's not just me.
I hope it works. I really, really do. But I have to ask you these audience questions. First question was, at what point did you start to truly feel starving? And you're saying you never did.
Never felt hungry. And that's the truth. Like
what was the closest to giving up that you were? Day 15?
I was never going to give up. And it wasn't even about giving up or giving in. It was more just like surrendering to the flow. But I was not, there was no like giving up. So there was no like point.
There's no point.
There was no point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This is kind of a weird question, but I'm asking it because the audience wants to know. Did you poop?
People want to know.
Like if you're not eating for 40 days, did you go to the bathroom?
After day 13.
And what did it look like?
After day 13, not once.
Not one time after day 13.
Yeah. So like now I think
it took 13 days though. If there's nothing in your system, that's crazy.
Yeah, letting it all out. And it was like gradually less and less and less, but day 13 was like the last time. And then,
did that freak you out at all or really?
No, it was like this is great. Like
freedom.
I'm like my gut is free. Like it's there's nothing in it. I think now if I did it, like I want to get to that state, I'll continue to fast.
Yeah.
But I think it could be like 7 days or 4 days now. But I had a lifetime of like excess stuff in there that was just
right. You don't need as many days now because you kind of got everything.
Yeah, because I did a rebirth. Yeah.
What happened to your activity level, work, social, etc.?
Work, I was working 14 hours a day, and I had so much more time, and I didn't require as much sleep either. So work, I was like, and you could ask Dom or my whole team.
Sure.
I was a machine, like very productive. Social, I was still out and about for the most part. It was just those last like week and a half or so that I started to isolate, but it was still like, you know, social. I wasn't totally out. And then
Did you feel spacey at all? Like, were you, no?
clear as could
Wow.
be. Like, because there was no spike or crash. It was just like from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed.
How many hours a night did you sleep?
Probably like 6,
No
7.
trouble sleeping?
Not
No?
once. Slept like
Oh
a
my
baby. Yeah.
And I think I know the answer to this, but how did you handle withdrawals such as caffeine, protein, etc.?
So the only like withdrawal was caffeine, and maybe it was like withdrawal of everything, but it was on day 1, just like a little headache. It wasn't even that bad, but other than that, I was good.
And I think I know the answer to this too. Did you take aspirin or any over-the-counter medications?
No medications.
You didn't wash your hair.
We had no
use
reason.
deodorant.
Shampoo,
Did
no
you
deodorant. No, no, because I had nothing in my
Nothing
body
in you
to
to,
smell.
like,
So
yeah.
I just smell like human. And if you smell a baby, my brother just had a baby yesterday,
You smelled like a baby.
and I was. I mean, like,
Yesterday?
the natural smell of a human is actually really good. Like, it's like just this natural smell. And I imagine I smell like that. I don't know. You can't really smell yourself. It's like
Yeah.
weird, but I imagine smell like that. It's food. When we put in toxins, when we sweat or we release these glands, we're just releasing the toxins. Otherwise, sweating is just water.
Oh.
And the toxins are what smell. So the worse you eat, the worse you smell. And I already knew that.
Interesting.
But so I wasn't fearful. Of
And
my
congrats to your brother yesterday.
congrats.
Huh?
smell.
What
Yeah,
kind of
it's
baby?
crazy. A girl.
Oh, girl.
Eliana.
Aw, Eliana. So cool. Okay. What are the after effects, short and or long term? Any like bodily after effects or?
So I would say I just felt reborn with my body. So like it's like a clean state, fresh start. And I would honestly say like the fast, I was in the journey, but after the fast has been way more like profound and,
Wow.
and wild. Like post fast has been even more deeper because now it's like integrating. Now it's the rest of my life. So after effects in
Never would
terms
have
of like,
suspected that.
Does it make you want to do a 40-day fast?
Well, it's interesting because we had talked
Yeah.
about that we had done a 3-day fast
Right.
and we felt energized. We felt more clarity
Yeah.
during that 3rd day. So my expectation is that would absolutely wane when you get to day 10, day 30, day 40. But you're saying it just rides the entire time and it doesn't dissipate when you're done.
yeah, well, it's just different. Like I guess I would say when you're done, it's like a rebirth. So you just look at like everything I see, like the lights, the sounds, the
It's like
colors.
you were reborn.
I
Like
literally reborn. Like I see
Wow.
everything differently for like the first time
I love it.
in a way. So yeah, it's
I love it.
I
fascinating.
asked that question about the lead up, and did you taper your food? You didn't. You just like that week before. You were like,
It's like, I'm done.
It was
Yeah.
very quick. I'm gonna do it fast and I'm doing it.
what days were the hardest?
I would say day 6, which was with Dom
Yeah.
when he had the cardiac arrest. And those days in Austin were just like very hard because it was Dom. So it was emotionally challenging. The heat of Austin, out of routine. And everybody bringing Dom the best food in the world.
Sure.
Just be adapted. So those days were probably the hardest. And then also on top of those same days, that only made the fear of all my loved ones even more. Because now they
Right.
heard like that my friend just
true.
had a cardiac arrest and he's 24 and he was running. So now they're like,
They apply that to you.
yeah. So it's like, oh, you're, and there it was like, but you're doing this to yourself. Like your Dom's was out of control. So that I would say those days were the hardest with all those different things going on. Yeah.
Wow. How did you feel after your first meal? Could you keep it down?
I felt
yes.
amazing and yes.
Then they asked how much weight you lost, but you said you never weighed yourself.
Never weighed
If you were
myself.
going to guess, 10 pounds, 20 pounds?
I would say like 15
15
20
pounds?
pounds, but yeah.
Can
But
we
like,
put that picture up of you when we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
You
on
said you
his
had-
Insta.
No,
sorry.
it's not on my
No.
Insta.
Oh, it's
No,
not.
it's a end game picture. You said of how
Oh,
you
yeah.
looked.
Yeah, I have a picture of me after.
Because you look
after
great
it's-
right now. Like you
Oh, thank
definitely
you.
look,
Yeah.
you're fine.
Yeah.
I
I
had to like hug you and pinch you when you walked in.
I've built a lot of it back. I haven't been working out just like from all my milk and honey. I've started to build it back up. But
Do you know, you probably don't know this because you didn't check before, but do you have any other physical benefits like lower blood pressure, diabetic improvement? I mean,
I'm sure I have every physical benefit that could ever exist. Like my body was reborn, got rid of all the synthetic, artificial things, all the inflammation gone, any like corruption that was in my body just eradicated and cells restored. And I could feel that for sure. And the second I started to integrate back in, it was like, now I was downloading all the information from the food that I was getting, and it was the combo was like, whoa, like very special.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lauren said this. What mental state were you in? Were you ever hangry?
It's a good question.
Yeah, because you know how you get hangry, like a lot of people do.
Well, it's never hungry,
Yeah.
but there was definitely times where I was more like, I want to be alone. Like I just want to meditate or be free or like just like peace, and like some other people come in, and it wouldn't be like angry. I was very peaceful during the whole thing, but there was moments where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go over here and I'm gonna meditate. Like I would just kind of escape myself.
Yeah. So whenever you felt like off, you just go meditate.
Yeah, not even necessarily off. It was just like I felt like almost like that was my hunger. Like it was like a hunger for like to go deep, go within in a way.
Wow.
Like hunger to meditate and do breath work, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hungry
And then
for
the last
oxygen.
question, I think I know this, but was your body craving food every day?
No.
No. That's nuts.
See, that's the thing. Like when I approach a fast, it's all, I have to be disciplined. It's got to be physical. How am I going to deal with the hunger? It's all going to come. None of that was a factor for you because it was driven by this
Like epiphany.
non-physical, guiding force. So I hope you're inspired, because I'm thinking about doing another fast now. After
see? I
it'll
knew
never
it.
be
I knew it.
anything like that, but it's a different approach to fasting,
Yeah.
right? Because even all over social media, it's all about here's how to get through the hunger
It's to lose
stages.
weight,
It's
or
all
to-
physical. And now there's actually another way which you can be the passenger.
Yeah.
And you don't have to work so hard to have a successful fast, because that's how I see it. That's why I don't do it all the time, because it's so hard in my head. It's I don't want to. Do I want to go through that? Do I want to do it again? If you remove all of that by just saying no, I'm just being guided.
Yeah.
I'm just being guided. It's another way to approach it and potentially be successful.
I like
love
that way you say that. The passenger. You're just the
Yeah,
passenger
you're
in
the
the current. You're
passenger.
just floating in the river, and the river's pulling you. So sometimes that river's moving fast.
Yeah.
Sometimes that river's moving slow. But no matter what, you're chilling in the
And
lazy
it's
river,
moving.
the tube just going to
Yeah,
it and
I love
enjoying the ride, looking out like, whoa.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
What else do you
It's
want to
been great.
say? Anything? I don't have anything else to ask you. Like, I'm just glad you're alive and you're here. And,
Yeah, step one.
and if you think to do it again, like, I'm happy for you, but I don't know that I will still not be scared.
yeah, if I was to do it again, and once again, it's not like, do I want to or don't want to? It's more like if I had that same feeling to do it again in the future, I can't say. I imagine I will not do it like nobody will know.
Oh,
Either
really?
I'll operate in
You'll keep it
society and
very-
just nobody will know. I'm just living with life.
Yeah.
Or it will be like I'm out for
Because
X amount of days, like
opening
nobody
yourself
knows.
up to all of that feedback
Yeah,
from
all that
the
criticism
world.
and concern.
And just like living, that was like one of the most, like even people who've done it in society, like monks or whatever, when they're doing it, they're fully isolated, which I'm sure
Right.
has its own challenges, but it also has its own, like, it's like probably way, I would say not like easier or harder, but it's just like way different. There's other challenges that exist by doing it in modern society. Like I was fully in society, like I'm building a tech company. I'm still like with family, friends, or this or other. So you get all these other inputs. You get this constant temptation of people drinking, eating, this or that. Where if I went off my own, I think it would be a different type of experience, because I'd be in that meditative state the whole time without any distractions. Now, I do think those distractions, those temptations built this strength in me.
Yeah, some resilience. Yeah.
Resilience, and more just like the ability to not be tempted. Because temptation is like this thing. And I still now, like some temptations are coming back, which is why I know I need to like, okay, I need to ground myself again. Like I need to come back. Like I need to free myself from these temptations, because temptations are what deviate us off that current. They're that like oasis in the desert, or the flashy object that's like, oh, free will, go this way. And then when we go out that way, that's when anxiety, stress, and fear come into place. And fear, that leads to inflammation and disease. So yeah, just like the ability to like not have temptations. And like by day 40, I didn't bite my nails. I didn't have temptations, like any sexual urges. I didn't have any other temptations. It wasn't just food. Like I was totally free from temptations. And in that, I could totally be present in the moment. So it was a very special thing. And that's what I was really grateful for by being in society, because there was just an infinite amount of temptation.
So you don't allow yourself to have any vices at all. Like you can't even have sex. You can't even like,
Well,
hang out, like, you know, none of that stuff. You want to be pure of mind.
it's more like when you go to the other side, like you go to this space of just like absolute bliss. It's like you just bought a new Ferrari. Why would I just put a dent in it? You know, why would I like pop the tire intentionally? And when you get to that point and you recognize like that those vices are just gonna like hurt you, like at the end, they're all the oasis. They're all these flashy
They're
objects.
fun at
It's
the
foosball.
time, but you don't.
But they're
it
not
doesn't.
as fun. Like when you're in this state, and granted, I still like. Now I'm like in this state where a month or so in, and I'm like, I need to reground myself. Like for a while, it was flowing, but now I'm like, I feel like I need to reground myself a little bit. But you know where temptations are coming in. But when you're like beyond, like you free yourself from all that. Like it's not that doesn't. You don't see that as fun.
But can you see yourself with a partner? Like, you know, you will get married one day. Like
Yeah,
what?
maybe,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
But that's
We'll
just
see.
not. So that
We'll
would
see.
have to just sort of appear to you and.
Yeah, it's not like same deal with the fast. Like, will I do another 40-day fast? It's like, we'll see. Like, it's not that I want to. It's not that I don't want to. Same thing with marriage or kids. It's like,
Family,
we'll
yeah.
see if that's like the
Because
path
you
that's
have
brought to
your
me.
goals in mind, and family and marriage and stuff like that aren't part of that.
Well, I have one, I guess, goal you could say. It's just to bring harmony to this world. And so they could be a part of that.
Right.
They could be a pivotal part of that.
Right.
Because in order to bring harmony to the world, I need to bring harmony to myself.
Yeah.
And I need to bring harmony to my individual tribe, which is why I'm home. Like to try,
Yeah.
you know, because my brother's having a kid, my other brother was in the hospital. Like bring harmony to my collective, and then you can bring harmony to the world. So like remove the beam in your own eye, and then remove the splinter in your neighbor's eye, type thing. So we'll see. I just, it's like, we'll see.
What will be will be.
No,
Yeah,
we
what will be will be.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you. You
Thank
know,
you.
not that you need my pride in you. I'm sure you're proud of yourself, but
I'm amazed by
you know,
you.
yeah, and amazed. Yeah, absolutely.
That's been great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
No, I
thanks for giving
appreciate
us.
you
Thanks for
guys
sharing that
having me
whole
on,
story,
yeah.
that whole journey. It's been
Exclusive.
incredible.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's fun. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Round 2. We'll see what's round
wild.
3. Round 3 is the
Oh, what's
the-
round 3 going to be? You think?
When you change the
we'll
culture.
see.
Yeah, when
we'll
you
see.
change the culture, will you come
You
back?
have to remember
Yeah.
us when
Yeah,
you change
remember-
the culture and
remember
everybody wants to talk
the little
to you.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember us when you change the world.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Big love.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah, thank you.
asking the questions.
Let's go
Yeah.
eat. Just kidding.
Yeah.